At Athletic Park, Wellington, 5,000 people saw Australia win the first athletic test between Australia and New Zealand. In the 100 yards, a tussle was expected between Kurota, Australia, in the second lane, and Eustace of New Zealand in the near lane, but Eustace led all the way to win in 10.4 seconds. There were 4 starters in the mile. First time past the stand, Bates, New Zealand led the way, followed by Marks of Australia, Marshall and Sinclair. With 300 yards to go, Marshall was in the lead when he tripped and spoiled his chances. Marks, who'd been biding his time, made a drive about 200 yards from home and forged ahead of the field, while Sinclair moved up to third place. Marshall and Marks were fighting for the lead as they came into the straight, but Marshall was tiring and the Australian got the better of him to lead the way to the tape from Sinclair, Marshall and Bates. In the 120 yards hurdles, there was a close struggle between Mullins of Australia in white and Smith, New Zealand, in the near lane. They were racing stride for stride most of the way, but Mullins gained a few inches at the last hurdle and kept his lead to the end. In the 440, there were 3 starters, Grierson and Sutherland of New Zealand, and Edwin Card of Australia, son of the famous Slip Car, former Australian champion sprinter. With the bold free action which recently beat McKinley, Carr took the lead and, increasing it with every stride, led the way to the tape in 48.5 seconds. This fine win gave Australia a well-deserved lead in the first Trans-Tasman Athletic Test.
Over 3,000 polling booths established throughout New Zealand and in the Chatham Islands gave electors the opportunity to record their vote in the gaming and liquor referendum. Those not quite conversant with the ballot papers were assisted by booth officials drawn from various branches of the clerical profession. During the day, approximately 650,000 people cast their votes. At 7 p.m., the polls were closed and the contents of ballot boxes counted. Totals from the local areas were telephoned to operators at the Chief Electoral Office, established for convenience in the General Post Office, Wellington. Here in the operating room, telegraph machines ticked out facts and figures from the rest of the country. Radio also played a part in the coordination of the Dominion totals, as the Chatham Island results were received by radiogram. All these reports were sorted and checked by the electoral staff organized for the occasion. Official progress totals were issued from time to time for inclusion in the evening's broadcast program, and all New Zealand knew the result of the voting less than 5 hours after the polls had closed. These quick results indicate smooth organization in an important community service. As a break from the round of conferences, some of the scientists attending the Pacific Science Congress held recently in New Zealand take a launch up Pelorus Sound in search of specimens of New Zealand marine life. Seabirds like this pied shag first attract notice, but it's what lives under the sea that interests them most. The ordinary hook and line is the best method of collecting specimens, and included in the catch is a sea scorpion, a fish that stings when touched. This is a blind eel or hagfish. He's just as nasty as he looks. Commonly found round the New Zealand coast are sea stars like this one. But more interest is taken in the minute organisms inhabiting the waters of the Sound, and a net of fine silk mesh is used to trap all but the smallest creatures and divert them into a glass jar. These will be examined under the microscope later, but a preliminary investigation is made by Dr. Brunn, a noted Danish oceanographer. Samples from the seafloor are also required, and these are obtained with a Pedersen grab. It brings up mud from the bottom of the Sound, and with it some of the small creatures which exist there. These are some of the specimens from the sea floor, and they'll be taken back to Wellington for more detailed examination by the Marine Department. The Science Congress has been largely concerned with the harvest of the sea as food for an undernourished world, and its work is important for all countries bordering the Pacific.
At Waihi Beach, nearly 500 competitors in 26 teams from every part of New Zealand took part in the National Surf Life-Saving Championships. These are the finals of the senior four-man alarm. The event demonstrates an alarm rescue with the minimum team. In keeping our beaches safe, the New Zealand Surf Life-Saving Association does work which can't be overvalued. Since its inception in 1932, 2,638 rescues have been carried out by its members. Popular with spectators is the individual surf ski championship. The basis of life-saving is still the reel and line, but in recent years surf boats, canoes and skis have come into widespread use. D. Wright of Piha rides into victory. During both days of the championships, the surf was disappointingly light. Island Bay reels out in the ladies' four-man alarm. Women's membership of the association reached a peak in 1945 when they replaced many men who were then overseas. Wellington ladies won the event. Over 100 lifesavers raced into the water for the Senior Surf Team Championship and individual surf race. This race was won by N. Chambers of New Brighton, and second came his brother C. Chambers, who won last year. On their return, competitors sit in order of arrival so that points may be awarded to teams. In the spectacular march past, 22 teams participated. Many lifesavers were not there. Enough stayed behind to ensure safety of their home beaches. On Saturdays and Sundays and all holidays, patrols are on duty. Each year, the total patrol time is reckoned at between 4,000 and 6,000 hours. Lifesavers receive no payment for their services. Mr. A. Gardner, president of the association, presents a new pennant in memory of members killed during the war. It goes to Maranui, who also won the Pacific Shield for the senior championship. For 3 summers, not one death by drowning has occurred on beaches patrolled by members of the association.